In the southern African country of Mozambique lies the remote village of Nambita. Here, the farmers are trying to rebuild their lives, destroyed after years of civil war. Millions of trees are being planted, not for timber, but for another valuable commodity, carbon. And these tiny seedlings have attracted interest from movie men in Los Angeles to burger bars in Stockholm. Sunday Times environmental journalist Richard Girling first came to Nambita 4 years ago, when the project was in its infancy. Now he's returning to see how it has grown. Mozambique paid deeply for 17 years of brutal civil war. When a truce was drawn in 1992, over 1 million people were dead, the wildlife decimated, and vast swathes of land ruined. An unlikely setting for a business venture. But a London-based entrepreneur spotted potential profits. He set up in the village of Nambita, on the edge of the Gorongosa National Park. And it's here that Richard Girling is meeting the project's operational manager, Antonio Serra.
Just explain to me what we're looking at here. What kind of changes are we noticing in this field that were not here 4 years ago?
This is the very first farm who joined to the project. And on his first year, he planted the indigenous trees. So as you can see, those big trees were the first trees planted by Envirotrade.
Since 2002, over 1,500 farmers have signed up to the scheme. To meet the demand for trees, 6 nurseries have been set up.
The capacity of this nursery is about 70 to 80,000 trees per year. But in total, the 6 nurseries we have here, we have a contract of 300,000 seedlings that we will take this year and distribute to the producers.
What advantage will be gained by planting so many trees?
We are creating employment, we are creating incomes, and also this will help to reduce the impact of deforestation on this area, but helping also to capture all these carbon emissions.
And carbon is what's at the very heart of this entire project. These saplings have the potential to make millions of dollars on the world's carbon trading market. As they grow, they'll absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and companies who want to reduce their carbon footprint can buy these so-called carbon credits. The project is the brainchild of London businessman Robin Burley. He's the stepson of the late Sir James Goldsmith and took over the running of the famous London nightclub Annabelle's, named after his mother. Unlikely credentials for co-founding an African forestry scheme. But with $2 million of his own money already sunk into the project, he's deadly serious about what he's doing.
I set up Envirotrade because I have a great love for Africa. I was excited by the idea of starting a new form of philanthropy stroke business. It's a partnership. It's a legal partnership between Envirotrade and local communities and subsistence farmers. And the contract is that Envirotrade brings investment and technical know-how and understanding how the carbon market works. In other words, it can produce a product out of what the farmers are producing, and the farmers bring the land, the goodwill, the work, and that partnership produces a carbon credit that's sold internationally.
Here, on the trading floor in the heart of London, millions of dollars of carbon credits are bought and sold every day. This global market is worth close to $100 billion a year.
Carbon trading is a mechanism used to limit the amount of CO2 released into the atmosphere, the essence being of commoditizing greenhouse gases into a tradable unit and putting a price to that tradable unit so that they can be transferred from buyer to seller, just like any other commodity in the world. Most of the buyers of carbon credits right now in the European Union are heavy industries, that is cement, steel, energy utilities, those types of companies who are essentially emitting the most amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. They are essentially capped as to how much they can emit in any one year by the European Union, and in essence have to go into the market and buy these allowances if they breach their cap.
So, heavy industry must buy additional credits to offset their emissions if they go over their carbon limit. This is known as the compliance market and represents a massive 99% of the industry. Unfortunately for Nambita, tree planting is not part of the compliance sector. When the Kyoto Protocol was negotiated, all forestry was excluded, so offsetting with trees has never been part of the official or compliance market. Instead, forestry offsets are sold in the tiny voluntary market. Despite all that, in Nambita, it provides an incentive to change. Old methods of farming, chopping down trees and burning the land, which depleted the soil, are now noticeably reduced.
Well, this, believe it or not, is a maize field. It's a wonderful example of the old slash and burn technique. And the reason for the clearance is because the land is so poor and it's so easily exhausted that more forest has to be taken, more trees are taken out, and so the forest becomes gradually more and more diminished. Looking towards the horizon, what we can see is an unbroken canopy of primeval African forest, and that is what this should be like.
The move from slash and burn farming has gone hand in hand with farmers like Maria joining the carbon scheme. Maria's husband died from AIDS 5 years ago, leaving her to bring up 5 small children on her own.
What difference to your life has the project made?
She said that before the project, even her kids were almost nude. But with the project, the money she's getting from the salary, has a salary, and also the money she's getting from the planting the trees, he's helping her. She said Subir is helping her to climb.
As with all farmers on the scheme, Maria had a choice over which crops to plant. She chose pigeon peas, one of the most popular plants. It's nitrogen-rich to improve the soil and provides a valuable crop to eat or sell.
This is the pigeon pea. This is the fresh bean. You can try it sweet.
Yeah, it's quite like an English garden pea.
And this one is the dry one.
They left to dry on the plant?
Yes, they dry on the plant and they harvest after drying. They use as a cash crop. So fixing nitrogen, food security reason, and also has a cash crop. So it's why we are promoting this crop all over the community.
In 6 years, average farmers' income has risen from $50 to $500 a year. But the project's investors are still in the red.
To date, the EU has given $1.5 million. I've given $2 million. I've invested $2 million, and the project has generated carbon sales of $1.5 million, all of which has gone into the community. In return for that, the community don't charcoal burn, they don't slash and burn, but they farm. They conserve forest, they plant trees, but they also use new agricultural techniques to produce more food. Obviously, I'm hoping, we're all hoping, the community's hoping, I'm hoping, that the carbon market for this type of carbon will expand, in which case much more sales will come in and Envirotrade will then become a proper profitable model.
For this to happen, Envirotrade has to move out of the tiny voluntary market into the 100 times larger compliance market, where carbon sales are virtually guaranteed. But there are powerful lobbies who believe Nambita has no place at this lucrative carbon table. Nambita's fate will be decided a continent away in December, when global leaders gather in Copenhagen to discuss a new international policy on climate change. In Mozambique, Sunday Times journalist Richard Girling is revisiting the village of Nambita. In a business deal set up by a British company and overseen by the University of Edinburgh, trees are being planted to help remove carbon from the atmosphere. The carbon credits they generate are sold on the world market to companies looking to offset their own emissions. The money raised is invested into the community.
The newest school paid by the carbon money, and all the building was made by local people. All this structure was made by the carpenters.
So this is all timber from the project?
All timber from the project.
And where will the children come from who are going to be taught here?
Most of the children are coming from around here, about 2 to 3 kilometers around the school.
What difference do you think that will make to life in the community when this generation of children grows up? Do you think they will be expecting a better standard of life than their parents had?
Definitely.
At another school 20 kilometers away, technology has moved from the 19th to the 21st century in one overnight leap. 100 laptop computers link this remote community to the outside world, a gift from one of Nambita's carbon buyers. There are just 3 main buyers of Nambita's carbon credits: a celebrity agency in Los Angeles, a hedge fund investor in London, and a burger chain empire in Sweden. In Stockholm, the oldest chain of burger restaurants is Max Burger. They're known for their environmental stand. In fact, it's even on the menu. They offset the 27,000 tons of carbon they produce each year by planting 90,000 trees in Nambita.
We have analyzed our whole supply chain from the start, from the farmer's land all the way to the customer's hand. And this analysis has shown us that more than 70% of our carbon emissions comes from the beef itself. And of course that's a problem, because we are selling burger and more than 80% of the burgers that we are selling containing beef. So then we saw the only way to become neutral is, in the short run, to do carbon offsetting. We decided to buy our carbon credits from a tree plantation, and then we find the Nambita project as a tree plantation project very interesting. It's in a stable country, but it needs support to continue to be stable in the future. So Nambita is very compelling to us. This is a question of responsibility, and we do believe that we have to do everything we can to reduce our effect, what we are affecting the climate. In total, we see that this gives our customers a new perspective of Max. They become more loyal, they buy more burgers, so in the long run, this is profitable.
Nambita needs several more Max burgers if it's to become profitable itself. Its income falls well short of what's needed to secure a future. But for now, even limited trading is bringing dividends. Children are better fed, better clothed, and better educated. Nearly 200 new jobs have been created, and the once warring factions in the civil war are working side by side. But Nambita's success depends on carbon offsetting, which leading environmental groups say should stop.
What we want to see is a system where industries in the developed world actually cut their emissions. That they're not able to, if they go over a certain amount and continue to increase, if we build that new coal-fired power station, they're just able to say, well, our emissions don't matter because we can very cheaply buy some offset credits and fund a small project here or there in the developing world. We actually need to make the emissions reductions in the developed world, and offsetting schemes don't allow us to do that.
The Green Lobby's proposals could have profound consequences for Robin Burley and his project in Nambita. When world leaders meet in Copenhagen in December to begin new talks on climate change, the Greens will be pushing their corner hard, just as a small and blossoming economy is beginning here.
And this is one of the example of the shopping we have in Nambita. As you can see, you can buy almost anything: soap, oil, paraffin, dry fish. Como é que chamas? Maguanga?
Maguanga.
Ah, maguanga. The salt out.
Obrigado.
Now even bicycle spares.
Yes, and bicycle spares.
Many people here now have bicycles.
Yes, now is almost 70% of the people have bicycles. Before the project, only 5 bicycles was around here, but now a lot of people traveling up and down with the bicycle.
These signs of economic growth are modest beginnings, but support Robin Burley's view that agroforestry should be included within the carbon trading market.
Do you understand why some people are opposed to projects like this?
I would invite anybody who doesn't believe in this type of carbon trading to come down here and interview the farmers and ask them. We've got a better scheme for you, because I don't know what the better scheme is.
The Green Lobby want first world carbon polluting countries to pay into a centrally funded money pot, which bodies such as the European Union would manage to oversee projects like Nambita. But for Robin Burley, this type of handout aid simply won't work.
The only reason this has been a success is because it's transactional. We buy, they sell. Once you take that out, it's pure charity. And when I started it, I very deliberately did not make Envirotrade a charity. I made it a business. We expect something from farmers, they expect something from us. And that's self-respect for everyone all over the world. And it's a critical part of it. So therefore, in my eyes, the market solution is the only way it can work.
With the Copenhagen summit looming, Robin has 2 battles ahead of him. Firstly, a head-to-head with Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth to persuade them that they should include forestry in the negotiations. And secondly, to move his carbon credits from the voluntary to the more lucrative compliance sector.
What we would be able to do with compliance is round it off as a properly sustainable project. We would be able to bring the entire community rather than half the community into the scheme, and most of them want to do that. And we could start Tupperwaring Nambita into areas rippling out from here.
And would the time come when they wouldn't need you anymore?
I hope so.
And that would be the point where you would feel you'd achieved your ambition?
Yeah, absolutely right. That's part of the business model.
But until then, Nambita is still dependent on its voluntary carbon buyers and Robin Burley's personal wealth to keep it afloat. Any prosperity here is hanging by a fragile thread. Before he leaves, Richard has one more visit to make. Carbon money financed the building of a new clinic 2 years ago.
Most of the people who came here are suffering of a headache, but it's related with malaria, so it's why she used to give a tablet to malaria.
So we can see that in the incident book. There's a page here, it's malaria, 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 all the way down the page.
The old ways of traditional Africa haven't been completely replaced by modern technology and methods. The witch doctors are still visited before most patients decide to utilize the clinic. But a move into the 21st century has unquestionably been embraced due to this community's relationship with the carbon world.
Here I am at the end of my visit. The overwhelming impression is of growth, huge growth in the numbers of farmers and their families participating in the project. Huge growth in the scale and ambition of the project itself. And in one very real sense, they have control of their own lives. In another way, they remain dependent on forces far beyond their control. It's world leaders meeting in Copenhagen who are going to settle the climate control and carbon policies.
Copenhagen represents a very important point in time for companies such as Envirotrade. On the one hand, if compliance markets accept their credits, they will see demand grow dramatically and the company will flourish. On the other side, if the credits are not accepted in the compliance market, they will only be saleable in the voluntary market, which is exactly where Envirotrade is now.
There will be many opposing viewpoints at the Copenhagen summit. But what most are agreed on is that formulating the world's next climate policy is not going to be quick or easy. Until it's settled, Nambita can only carry on and wait.